It's really a pleasure to be here and see all of you here today. Well, I'm here to talk about plug-in cars, my personal experience with them, and specifically the Chevy Volt, which I understand there are ride and drives being given today. How many of you have had the opportunity to drive a Volt? Just a few of you. I highly oh, good. Is it a good experience? Good. I highly recommend that you all take a drive in it because I think this car will really surprise you. I was just telling somebody just a moment ago that my friend Marshall, who's owned 5 Porsches, says that he just loves his Volt. So not only is it an environmental car, but it's a highly performing car. So it's really appropriate that we're here today talking about cars because women buy 65% of the new cars and we influence 95% of the new car purchases. So a question for you all. How many of you have driven an electric car, pure electric car? I see some hands over there. Anybody want to give me a definition of an electric car? No tailpipe. No tailpipe. Works just on batteries. What about a hybrid like a Prius? Anybody want to give me a definition? Who has a Prius here? Great. Anybody want to give me a definition of a Prius? You right there? A what? A golf cart? Oh, I'm here today to disavow that myth that cars with batteries are golf carts. Believe you me. Just take a trip in the Volt and you'll see, especially when it's on electric. A hybrid is a car that has a gas motor but a battery which assists the gasoline so that although you're always in gasoline, you're getting better mileage because the batteries are helping the car run. But an extended range electric vehicle is the new kind of car, and that's the Chevy Volt. It's a state-of-the-art car, the most advanced car in the world. And the difference between it and a hybrid, because a lot of people come up to me when they see my Volt and they say, oh yeah, I know it's a hybrid. No, it's an extended range electric vehicle. And the difference is that in a Volt, you can choose to be an electric. And then if you need to go farther, for me, I get over 43 miles per charge. You have another 330 miles that you can go on a gasoline engine. Unlike a Prius where you don't have the choice, you are always in gasoline. So I got involved with plug-in cars 22 years ago when the Exxon Valdez spilled. And like every good environmentalist, I was absolutely furious that that oil tanker had spilled 25 million gallons of oil into 11,000 square miles of pristine Alaskan coastline and ocean. I even wrote boycott Exxon on the back of my SUV. And then I realized, wait, I was the reason, one of them, that tanker was out there. I was the reason because that oil tanker was bringing gasoline for my gas car. So I decided to get off my high horse, stop blaming Exxon, take responsibility for being part of the problem, and I decided to become part of the solution. And I called my friend Ed Bagley, who's been driving electric cars since the 70s, and said, where can I get an electric car? And I found one. It was a conversion. It was an old Datsun. And it went 25 miles per charge, and it had an extension cord, and I charged it in my garage. Lead-acid batteries, which I had to put water in on a regular basis, but I love that car. And I drove it literally until the bottom fell out 3 years later, and I upgraded to another conversion, which got 50 miles per charge, still with lead-acid batteries, but I thought I was in heaven. 50 miles. The average American driver only goes 30 miles a day, so 50 miles took me pretty much everywhere around Los Angeles. But then in 1996, General Motors came out with the EV1. Is anyone familiar with the EV1? Has anyone seen the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car? Well, that was the car that was featured in that documentary. The EV1 was at its time state-of-the-art. It was an amazing vehicle. It could get over 110 miles per charge. So to me, it was like heaven. And not only that, it was high performing. I could beat any Porsche off the line when I was at a stoplight. And believe me, I showed off as much as I could, trying to disprove the point that a plug-in car is like a golf cart. It had an incredible turn radius because I did a lot of U-turns. It was a beautiful car, and I drove that car for 6 years. until GM wouldn't release it to me, because the automakers at that time, if you see the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car, you'll get a better understanding of the history of the struggle to get plug-in cars on the road. But at that time, GM decided that it was going to stop its electric vehicle program, and it would not release my car to me. I wept. Now, I'm not a car person. I'm an environmentalist. I look at the world through environmental eyes. So when I see a car, it's just about, oh, its efficiency. But I was in love with the EV1. And like our first love, you know, you compare everything afterwards to it. And I actually have 4 pages in my photo album dedicated to the EV1. It's like a shrine. But I've gotten over it, because now I've found that there are other cars, other alternatives, and the beautiful thing is that now in 2011, automakers have come a long way, and they've understood now what I saw back then, which is how beautiful electric cars were, how practical, how terrific they are, not only in performance, but for the environment. I had given up my gas car when I got the EV1, because it got over 100 miles per charge. And when I needed to go farther, I would borrow my boyfriend's car. He had a gas SUV, and he was more than happy to trade with me, because he loved driving the EV1 too. So when I didn't have the EV1 anymore, I would not buy a hybrid, because a hybrid does not give you the choice to drive on electric. You are always on gasoline. And I really felt back then in 2003 that 45 miles per gallon, which is what the Prius was getting, it was the most efficient car on the road then, was not good enough. In a world where we can talk to someone on a cell phone who's on Mount Everest, we can Skype with them, we have a space station out there where we put people, I just didn't feel that 45 miles per gallon was good enough, especially when the Honda Civic in 1978 was getting 38 miles per gallon. Luckily, in 2010, late last year, GM came out with the Chevy Volt. Oh, by the way, after my EV1, I did buy another electric car, the Toyota RAV4, which got over 100 miles per charge, and I still have today, and it works beautifully. In fact, my husband drives it now, and I drive the Chevy Volt, because 9 months ago, GM came out with the Chevy Volt. And even though I love the EV1, I now realize, as I've matured, that how well the Chevy Volt has fit into my lifestyle, because I don't need to drive my boyfriend, who's now my husband. I don't need to drive his car anymore when I go over 100 miles, because I have the Chevy Volt. As I said, it's state of the art, but what I love about the Volt is that I feel it's like 2 cars in one. It's an electric car when you need it, and then if you need to go farther, there's a gas engine that will kick in if you can't charge and take you another 330 miles. So what it means is that my husband, who has a full electric, and myself with the Volt, we're both driving on electric on a daily basis. And then on the odd case that we go out of town, then we use gasoline. I charge in my garage at night. And actually, even when we go out of town, we can charge. Ian, my husband, he went up north, and he drove the Volt, because that's our long-distance car. And he was at a motel, and he asked them if he could charge at the outlet next to the soda machine, because it just charges overnight. And they said yes, because they recognized that it would cost just over $1 to fully charge the Volt, so that it could go for us between 40 and 50 miles, which is how much my husband and I are getting when we drive electric. Then he went down to the Marriott in San Diego, and he called and said, is there an outlet in your garage? And they found one for him, and they were waiting, and they let him park there too. But public infrastructure is now being implemented, and people are being able to charge everywhere at malls and things like that. It's actually a very good business move for a lot of businesses who want to attract customers, because they'll park, they'll charge, and they'll find things to do and buy while they're parking and charging. But with the Volt, I don't have to charge. I just prefer to charge. So if there is no public infrastructure and I'm on a long-distance trip, I'm fine. Actually, in the 22 years that I've been driving electric cars, I actually hardly ever use public infrastructure. I find that people who have never driven an electric car have range anxiety. People who have driven electric cars and own them don't have range anxiety. I have rarely gone to the gas stations since I've had my Volt. I've driven it almost 14,000 miles, and 2/3 of that has been electric only. So I'm averaging 103 miles per gallon, if you include my electric use and my gasoline use, which is 5 times more efficient than the average US car. I'm also only paying 82 cents, the equivalent of 82 cents a gallon in electricity. Not only do the utilities give me a discount for charging at night, but I also happen to buy green power from my utility because I live in a condo and they have not allowed me to put solar panels up. But I do have solar panels on another roof that I consider offset my, my volt because I wasn't allowed to put solar panels on. That's hopefully an issue that will be rectified in a lot of condo associations so that we can charge more cleanly. An electric car is cleaner than gasoline even if your utility charges on 100% coal, but the US grid mix is 49% coal. So an electric car charging is way cleaner than a gasoline car. And the great thing about an electric car is that when you drive a gas car, as soon as you get off the lot, it starts getting dirtier and dirtier as it gets older. An electric car gets cleaner as the grid gets cleaner. So as my car gets older, I expect it to be even cleaner because certainly in California, and actually all over the United States, we're all working to get cleaner grids. So here's my plug, pun intended, for electric cars. They are quieter, faster, smoother, and cheaper than their gasoline counterparts. They are better for the environment than natural gas cars, gasoline cars, biodiesel cars, and hydrogen vehicles. They're not dependent on foreign energy sources. They can be powered off wind and solar, and those are clean and infinite resources. The charging infrastructure is here. We have electric outlets everywhere. They are more expensive than their gasoline counterparts. And that is an issue. But if everyone who could afford an electric car got one, the price would go down. There are also very strong government incentives. The United States government is giving $7,500 off for your taxes for a purchase of a plug-in car. And for example, the state of California in 2011 gave $5,000 off, or was it 2010, Chad? 2011, $5,000 off, and I think that's going to go to $2,500 in 2012. So you'd essentially get $10,000 off the purchase of your plug-in car if you purchased a car in 2012. So as environmental stewards and role models, I hope that your next car will be a plug-in, if you can afford it. As I mentioned at the start, we influence a lot of car buying. So even if we can't afford it, we can certainly talk about these cars, and I hope I can answer questions from you so that you, if you have any questions about just, a lot of folks have negative opinions about negative cars, and I want to try and dispel them from my personal experience, so feel free to attack me with your most vehement criticisms or fears about the car, and I will try and help you dispel them. They're not perfect. Probably a bike is better. I mean, I know a bike is better, or even walking, but they really do fit into pretty much everybody's lifestyle. And in fact, we have several GM representatives here, Kristen, Shad, and and they have generously offered that if you are seriously considering buying a plug-in, but if you're nervous about whether it will fit into your lifestyle, that they will lend you a Volt for a couple days so that you can see how wonderful the vehicle is. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions that y'all have. Over there. The golf cart woman, yes.
The electricity, you say we're using coal. Don't we want to get away from that? So isn't there a better way of using a plug-in instead of using electricity? Such as, was it fuel cell or, oh, I'm sorry, hello? I thought my voice carried. Instead of using electricity, which uses coal, which is what we want to get away from, what is really the next step after electric? Isn't there something better?
No, there isn't anything better. And hydrogen fuel cells, I think, is someone coming to talk about hydrogen later? My feeling about hydrogen is currently 3 to 4 times less efficient than electricity. It uses electricity. So hydrogen is sort of an extra step. It uses a battery, so it's an extra step. So as of now, electricity is the most efficient way for us to, the cleanest way for us to power our transportation if the grid is clean. Now, our grid is pretty clean in the United States, not clean enough. But that's what electric car advocates like myself, we're not only working to get cars on the road, we're also working to get a cleaner grid. Very important. So as I said, even if you were to charge at 100% coal, which is very rare, I think only there's some coal plants in Pennsylvania that might, power plants that use 100% coal. But even then, an electric car is equal to, but not worse than, a gas car. And you have to think of the other elements of gasoline, which is that it's a foreign product that has caused us, not just expensive at the pump, but it's caused us a lot of expense militarily, just trying to protect it, not to mention the wars that we've been engaged in recently. She asked about recyclability. It's a very good question. The nickel metal hydride batteries of the generation before this, the batteries now in the Volt and the Leaf, the Nissan Leaf, are lithium. But the nickel metal hydride batteries, they were 98% recyclable. Lithium, all the metals in these batteries, they are recyclable. People, you don't want to waste those batteries. You're going to get money back for those batteries because these are metals that we don't want to waste. Secondly, there's a really interesting thing about batteries, and Shad, I want you to fill in if I miss something, but there's a second life for batteries after they're in the car, and that is either for backup power for power companies to store the wind and sun energy, for example, because they don't have to those kind of batteries don't have to have the power of trying to move forward. They just have to have storage capacity. So after they are no good in our car, then they will go to the utilities, and after that, they will be recycled. And Shad, do you know, I did actually look that up yesterday, and I know Tesla, which has the Tesla Roadster, which is a car that goes 250 miles on its batteries. They have a very comprehensive recycling program, which they're very proud of. And it looks like they were recycling 60%, which I thought was pretty low. But, Shad, did you hear that? 90 to 95% of the materials in the battery are recyclable or reusable. Remember, we have batteries in our cars now, that 12-volt battery, and those, you recycle those. People are going to get money for those, and they won't just dump them. Any other questions? The 2012 Volt will be $39,995 base price. And then you take off the $7,500 that the United States government is going to give you back on your taxes. And then if your state, which different states vary in terms of the rebates that those states are getting. You can find a list. If you go to pluginamerica.org, you can look in and see under state incentives, and they'll tell you what kind of monies your state is giving you. Pluginamerica.org also has a list of 130 vehicles, plug-in vehicles, that are in the works from all around the world, ranging from dirt bikes to sedans to sport cars to a 60,000 to a huge truck that is working the Port of LA as we speak, which can haul 60,000 pounds. So there's all sorts of vehicles being powered by batteries. And there are other, by the way, the Volt is more expensive than maybe a pure electric car, because the engineers I know are in awe of this vehicle because it combines, it has does such a beautiful dance. When I go from electric to gasoline, I can't even feel it. I don't even know. My eyes are glued to the dashboard, hoping it's not going to go into gas, and I can't even see it when it does. So it's an amazing vehicle, and that's why it's a little more expensive. But as I said, as more people buy it, and we have to take responsibility and put our money where our mouth is. So those of us who are buying $35,000 gas cars can afford a Volt, especially because the maintenance of the Volt in terms of gasoline is so much cheaper.
That's what I was going to ask you. How many Americans would have to buy the Chevy Volt in order for the price to come down, and at what levels, like 20 million for every aisle?
Yeah, gosh, she asked how many people would have to buy the Volt for the price to come down markedly. You know, I don't know because I'm not on that side of it. the Nissan Leaf, which is a full electric, which gets between 70 and 100 miles per charge, after federal incentives goes down to the 23,000 or something. And then Ford is coming out also with a full electric that's supposed to be around that price too. Toyota will be coming out with a plug-in hybrid, which I'm not impressed with because it only gets 13 miles of pure electric, but it will be less expensive. And it also won't be an extended range electric vehicle. It will be a plug-in hybrid. This is where all the technology gets kind of, a plug-in hybrid is basically a car that plugs in but also has a gasoline somewhere in it. But the beauty of the Volt is that, like I said, I know that I'm going to be driving, for me, I average 43 miles on electric. Some plug-in hybrids that will be coming out next year will, when you press on the accelerator, the gas will sometimes come in to help it. And that's just the way that they've constructed it. And so a plug-in Prius, though, does get a better mileage than the regular Prius. So it's more power to us. As I said, I probably shouldn't criticize any car that's just trying to make improvements, so my bad. It's easy to complain, right? To fully charge the Volt, at a 240 volt outlet, which is sort of like your washing machine, takes 4 hours. And if you do it at an outlet, it takes 10 hours. Now, when I got my Volt, it was one of the first, it was actually the first Volts sold to a person here in California. So the charger person was a little like, it was the beginning, and so he came a little late. And it was actually 2 months I had my Volt before I got the charger. So I charged off 110, and I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna be able to do that. Well, of course, it was just fine. Because, well, I guess I don't go out partying late at night. But 10 hours for a charge, believe it or not, was just fit my lifestyle. I charge at night when I sleep. But I do have a charger, which is also was subsidized by government grants, and I think will continue to be, maybe into next year if you qualify for the program. So there's a lot of help out there financially, but I think the most important thing is for us to start talking, take a drive, especially Miss Golf Cart over there. I really want to see, I'll drive you actually I want you to drive it and see how great it is. It's truly a terrific car, and the technology is wonderful. I have one more question, then. Actually, my husband and I have a biodiesel truck, and I've sort of become a little disenchanted with biodiesel because of the issues of where the bio comes from, a lot of palm oil and stuff. So in terms of performance, electric is so much better than biodiesel. But I have a biodiesel truck. I don't have a biodiesel sedan, but I know that the torque on electric is amazing. I mean, if you want a fast car, get an electric car, you'll just blow your gas friends off the line, I swear. And in terms of accessibility, there are more outlets than there are biodiesel stations. And you can charge at home. It's amazing to plug in at home. I never have to go to a gas station, hardly ever. It rocks, you know, really. So thank you very much. I don't want to, you've got other great speakers coming this afternoon, so thank you so much. It was a pleasure.